It's a bit of a myth in coffee that 100% of the cherry should be ripe. The reality is coffee cherry ripens at different rates even on the same tree and the same branch, which is why it's important that there's selective picking. But if you look at websites, you would think that all the coffee is uniformly red, since there's a kind of selection made in the photo editing for ripeness. We found that when there's experiments with uniformly ripe cherry picked to a very high degree, the cup is actually worse in many ways. There's sweetness as good, but there's a kind of flatness in terms of the acidity and brightness and dimension in the cup. So we think a variation in ripeness is actually good. We're trying to negotiate the difference between what's true in the field and what's true in the agriculture, the agronomy of coffee, and what's the marketing for coffee. So I've come up with this method of what I call cherry fixing. It's sort of doing for the tree what the tree can't do for itself. Now here's a picture of coffee from Ethiopia, and this is very ripe, actually. It's a very good selection, but you see some half-ripes. We call these in Latin America pintones. And here's another picture from Ethiopia. You know, one of the classic pictures, the soiled hands of the coffee farmer as they hold out their product for you, the visitor. But as you can see, it's not the best selection. Some ripe, some partial ripe. This is the reality of coffee in Brazil, where you have coffee here that's actually dried on the tree to some degree. You have some red, ripe cherry, some decent ripeness here, and then some underripe. This one's just bizarre. I don't know what that is. But here's one ripe cherry, some semi-ripes, pintones, and some total immatures. So what I've figured out is when you cherry fix, what you do is you negotiate that gap, that, as they say in the media, disconnect between the expectation of what good coffee cherry looks like and the reality of what grows on the tree. Let me show you some techniques for solving that dissonance between the two. To solve this problem between what the perceived quality should be and what it actually is, I've been working with some Photoshop filters in order to make the photos match what the expectations are a little better. So there's several different approaches I've used with this. We can go in and just simply, in a wholesale way, shift the colors. Yeah, I think we've got it right about there. If that's not good enough, it's real easy to go in and just simply enhance. Sure, this is a little unrealistic, but in an age of Instagram, instant photo filter fixes, nothing's that real. And I think that meets expectations. Now, who hasn't been to a website where they've seen an image of coffee cherry on a branch with those glossy red ripe beans, and they think, wow, that coffee must be delicious. Look at that delicious fruit. Now this image is beautiful. I mean, the colors are amazing, but that color of that fruit is just not right. And maybe, you visited the coffee farm. In this case, I came to the harvest a little bit early. We have one ripe cherry. We have some mixed, not so ripe cherries. Well, that's what Photoshop is here to do. It's to replace an expectation that is already correct, that coffee fruit generally should be ripe in order to produce good coffee, although not uniformly ripe, but ripe. But let's make it uniform. So here I desaturated the image a bit, making it ready to receive the color that is enhanced, what we maybe call the hyper-real color. And I like to use one called color burn. And start out subtle. But the fact is people don't really expect subtle anymore. They want you to come right out at them, say, hey, our coffee's amazing. Look at the farmers we work with. Here's a picture of me and the farmer. Here's a picture I got 1 inch away from the red coffee cherry fruit. And that means I know a lot about coffee. In a funny way, when we go back in and we do this cherry fixing, I feel like I'm right there again, right at the fruit. Now this is sloppy. I could do this better, of course. But you can always go in and take it back a notch. That's what cherry fixing's about in the digital age with Command Z. Now there's another way to do this. That's just simply a color burn over a desaturated image. Let's pull out the big guns, the color replacement tool. Let's just take that original image and say, green cherry, it's just not ripe enough for me. I'm going to switch that green to red. There we go. And again, you can always go in later. Get that a little pumped up a little more. Maybe, pump up that red. I see that exclamation point telling me I'm outside of the printable color range. Who cares? Who cares? Let's just go for it. Let's make that cherry look fantastic. Well, you can pick which one you think is better. I think the main point of cherry fixing is, in fact, yes, you can put lipstick on a pig. Thanks for watching.
Buongiorno, I'm Fabio, and I'm very interested in what makes romance work.